This video is going to go over the 6 best sniper support weapons that are currently inside Warzone. If you do enjoy this style of content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we're trying to reach our goal of 50k subscribers. Click that link in the description down below and also subscribe to our second channel as well. But there's a lot of weird stuff going on in Warzone at the moment, with being able to have 6 attachments on Cold War and Modern Warfare guns, having 11 attachments on the Vanguard weapons because a lot of bugs and glitches. But at the moment, we want to focus on what are the best sniper support weapons, and we're not talking about if you add on any of these extra attachments and things, because they will probably get nerfed very soon, and that will be patched out of the game very shortly. So the first thing I actually did was I hopped onto the True Game Data website and picked out what I thought would be the main contenders that everyone would be actually trying to use right now as a sniper support weapon. And I built them, as you can see here, with the recoil boosters on them, with the damage mags, all that kind of stuff when it comes to the Vanguard guns. And keep in mind, we are trying to focus on weapons that only have 2 damage drop-off points, because pretty much every single SMG for Vanguard has 3 damage drop-offs, and that just makes it way inconsistent when you're talking about TTKs at long range, and especially in that kind of medium range right here between 20 and 40 to 50 meters. That's kind of medium range gunfights right there. That's where most of the gunfights take place inside Warzone in general, especially playing Rebirth and stuff. A lot of the gunfights take place in that range, and that is where we're focusing on here. So between like I said, 20 and 40 meters, and what we're looking for is the fastest TTK weapons here. So we've got the AS44, which is in pink, which has got the recoil booster and the damage mags, and every other attachment is kind of based around controlling the recoil as much as we can. Then we've got the Cold War AK, which is actually a very solid weapon when it comes to TTK at close range, and even at long range it doesn't really drop off all that much either. Next, what you can see here in this blue line is actually the STG with the recoil booster and the damage mags, and I'll show you the builds in just a second. Then we actually have the FFAR hidden way back in here somewhere. So as you can see, that's the long range TTK, and the close range TTK is just behind the Cold War AK. So you can see that it does have a really fast TTK as well. Then we've got the PPSH, which will be really hard to see, but this is the Cold War PPSH with a 630 millisecond TTK that drops off down to 697. Definitely a solid option in my opinion, just because of the movement and stuff, because it's an SMG. Then we do have the Bullfrog when it comes to the close range TTK, but as you can see at long range it does kind of drop off a bit, but nowhere near as much as something like the Cooper Carbine, for example, or even what we have here with the XM4. And then we've got the Pharah, which has got a very consistent TTK across all ranges. Now, having combined these TTK factors with having a little bit of low recoil and decent movement, we've came up with the 6 best, and at number 6 we have the STG. And this is with the recoil booster, because you do want a faster TTK. Most of your gunfights will be taking place at close range, so people will know where you are, so you don't really need a silencer on there anyway. Then we've got the recoil controlling barrel, because you do need to still control the recoil as much as possible, because the recoil booster is going to con that. Then we've chosen the skeletal underbarrel for a faster ADS time. With the STG, it doesn't have a ton of recoil anyway, so you can get away with this. Then we've got the Russian short mags, which is going to obviously con your recoil once again, but it does give you a higher damage profile, and that's why you get that super fast time to kill with this STG build. Hollow point, as always, because if you want to get a consistent TTK, you would use hollow point. Again, we're using this mainly for close range anyway. Then we've got the polymer grip. We've got acrobatic instead of vital, because it does not stack with the damage mags anyway. Then we've got fully loaded, precision stock, because there's not really any other better option, to be perfectly honest. And then any optic you like to use for those kind of mid-range gunfights. At number 5, we actually have the Bullfrog. I do think the Bullfrog is a solid sniper support weapon. Now, whether or not it's a good SMG, that's a whole different story, because there is definitely SMGs that kill way quicker than this at close range. But within that kind of mid-range, I do think the Bullfrog's still solid. You're going to be landing pretty much 90% of your shots anyway, because it's super low recoil. And the build you want to be using is this build right here. So GRU suppressor for the recoil control, task force barrel so you can still get the movement. It does con your recoil a little bit, but obviously we're making up for that with the GRU suppressor. I would go with the bruiser grip to get better movement speeds. You can actually go for the Spetsnaz grip if you want a bit more recoil control in the weapon, but personally I would always go with the bruiser grip on any Cold War SMG. Then you can go for the 65 round mags, which doesn't con your ADS time, which is great, so you're going to be fast and snappy compared to an assault rifle, for example, but you do get a 65 round mag, which is absolutely insane. And then the Serpent Wrap to help with the ADS time. If you do want a slightly better sight picture, you can go for something like the Microflex LED instead, and that would work really well for those longer distances, making sure you're landing those shots. But I do think the iron sights are pretty clean now. At number 4, we have the Cold War AK-47. Now, the Cold War AK is a super versatile weapon, and currently, I do still think is one of the meta weapons in the game, because for long range, it's very good, and I do think once the Bren gets a nerf, which it probably will, then the Cold War AK is probably going to be the meta weapon along with the C58 and things like that. But at the moment, it's just very good at everything, so you could use it as that sniper support. The TTK is very consistent. The only issue, and the reason why I can't put it a little bit higher up on the list, is because it just doesn't have the best recoil control. Now, it does take a bit of skill to get used to this weapon, especially if you're trying to use it as a sniper support gun without any barrel on there, because that's what helps the recoil the most. But with the current build, we're using the standard suppressor for the sound suppression. If you do need a little bit extra recoil control, then the GRU suppressor might be a really good option here as well. You can play around with that part. Then we've got the Microflex LED, because the iron sights are absolutely terrible in the Cold War AK. Serpent Wrap for the faster ADS. 45 round mags is more than enough regardless of which way you want to build this weapon. And then the Bruiser Grip for the faster movement speeds, I definitely think is a solid option. At number 3, we've got the Pharah, and the Pharah is a super consistent TTK weapon. It's low recoil as well with this specific build. I wouldn't say it's like super low recoil, of course, because we've not got a barrel on there once again. But if you do want to use it in that kind of medium range and have those consistent TTKs, regardless of what range you're shooting at, then the Pharah is definitely solid. So the build you want to use is the GRU suppressor for the sound suppression and recoil control. If you can control the recoil in this gun, then you can use a standard suppressor, very similar to the Cold War AK in this case. It just kind of comes down to personal preference here. Bruiser Grip once again, 45 round mags once again, Serpent Wrap and Microflex LED. This gun, in my opinion, is a better option than the FFAR. The FFAR's ADS is just way too slow, and on top of that, the recoil at range or those kind of medium ranges is very hard to control now. At number 2, we have what's pretty much one of the fastest TTK guns in the game right now when it comes to close and long range. Now, of course, it's going to have quite a bit of recoil in my opinion, so it's going to be quite hard to control, but if you can get it down, or if you're just mainly using it for those kind of close range engagements, and sometimes you might use it in that medium range, then this is going to be a solid option just because of its sheer TTK. It's going to kill just way too quick. So recoil boosters for the faster fire rate. You do want the damage mags on there because it's going to give you the fastest possible TTK on this gun. And then everything else is just to control the recoil as much as we can, to be pretty much honest. So we've got the accuracy with sustained fire stock. We've got the polymer grip. We've got the carver foregrip, because we get a little bit of extra hip fire accuracy. You can go for the M1 hand stop, which will control the recoil even more. So this is probably something I would recommend on the gun, so you can kind of play around with that attachment, because like I said, it's going to have quite a bit of recoil. And then we're using gung ho here because it does help when it comes to sprint to fire times and just using this more like an SMG. Steady is a pretty good option as well. And momentum might be okay, but steady and gung ho would be the best too. Gung ho being pretty OP right now. Fully loaded, and then any optic you like. Keep in mind, like I said, this gun does have a bit of recoil, so if you can land your shots, you will be melting enemies, but if you can't, then you're probably better off with what's at number 1 in this list. And what we have here at number 1 is the Cold War PPSH. I do think the Cold War PPSH is the best sniper support weapon in the game at the moment. The reason for that is because it's got a good close range TTK, it's got a solid long range TTK as well, the iron sights are very clean, the movement's very fast, it's got a 71 round mag, and this build right here has got a good mixture of movement, recoil control, and just pretty much everything you want in a sniper support gun. The bullet velocity is actually really good on this gun too, surprisingly, and I've actually got a gameplay out where I've used this exact build on the PPSH with, I think it was the M91. So if you do want to check out how this gun actually performs, 90% of the kills I had in that gameplay was with this gun anyway, so you can check that out, and I'll leave a link to that at the end of this one. But the build we're using is the GRU suppressor, the Task Force barrel, the 71 round drums, Serpent Wrap, and the CQB stock. And like I said, this is probably one of the best sniper support weapons in the game right now. Now, it's not going to be the best SMG, like I said, because it is SMGs that kills faster. But if you're talking about that 20 to 30 meter range, the Cold War PPSH is a solid weapon. So there we have it. Those are 6 of the best sniper support guns that are currently inside Warzone at the moment. Let me know if you're trying out something different and leave that comment down below and we can check it out for a future video. But if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like. Also subscribe to the channel as we try to reach our goal of 50k. Click the link in the description and subscribe to our second channel. And thank you very much for watching.